So this here is my website for my final project. My innovation was 3D printing, and I specifically deep dived into 3D printing in the healthcare industry because it's something I feel super passionate about as somebody who was once in nursing school. So my website is a Google site, and Google sites are super easy to use because you don't have to code anything for them. All you have to do is add pictures, headings, text boxes, and it's just super intuitive and user friendly. HTML, on the other hand, uses lines of code as basic building blocks that are used to tell the web browser how to style text, images, and lines. So it's like the positioning of this stuff here on the page and the positioning of the images on the page. Whereas CSS is used to style web pages. So that would be things such as the color of the text, the fact that it's bold, and the fact that it's a different font from like this text here. So my Google site is stored in Google Sites, like the application. And to find that, I just go to my search engine, and I usually use Google, and I just search Google Sites, and it will come up. I can log into my Google account, and it will pull up all the sites that I've used throughout whenever making sites. And then I can just click on the site that I want, and I can go in and I can change things such as the text, the images, the headings. And then to make those changes permanent, I just publish it, and I can share a link with people, or people can just find my website by searching for it online, although I think that'd be a lot harder because online would be searched by relevant search results. I'm sure no one's really searching up my web page. So to begin, this first page here is my home page, and it briefly explains how 3D printing works, which it works by using digital files, and it synthesizes the information in the digital files and cleans them up using AI. And then the AI talks to the computer in the 3D printer, and the 3D printer has the instructions on how to make the object. So then it goes line by line, row by row, creating an object. And specifically in healthcare, the healthcare industry, this printing filament is called biomaterial. So that can print things such as organs, models, and so on. So my innovation is 3D printing, and it can be used to create fast and cheap prototypes for product development. But as the years have gone on, people have been finding more and more ways to use 3D printing since it came out in the 1980s, and we're always revolutionizing. So you can imagine that people have continued to find new uses for it. And it's really beneficial because it can easily create complex shapes, and was initially used by large corporations for manufacturing. Initially, it was not intended to be used in the medical industry at all, but with these innovations, we have come to a point where it can be used and can be super beneficial, and the future benefits can be endless as we keep on revolutionizing and industrializing. So with that being said, there's definitely a major impact for this innovation. Like I mentioned before, it can bring about the opportunity to reduce waste, create prosthetics, and produce medicines. And this accessibility and waste reduction is very important today, especially as things get more expensive. Finding ways to cut costs to maybe get somebody their life-saving insulin that they wouldn't be able to otherwise. So the 3D printer can use biomaterials to print organs, and this could also be very important because people who are waiting for an organ donation can have an organ personalized to their body that their body may not reject. And it's also very difficult to get organ donations. Lastly, it can be used to create medical equipment models that are useful for educational purposes. So as you can imagine, the impact has been quite significant on people because it can literally save lives. And while it was originally used for production and prototyping, which is a big economic impact if you cut down on the costs used for making things, it's definitely very helpful. But in the healthcare industry, it's far more impactful, in my opinion, because it cuts costs, like I said before, on medications. And organ donation is super important because it can save somebody's life, and it lowers the cost of supplies and education opportunities. So here is the global healthcare 3D printing market size. So you can see since 2023, it has definitely grown since we're in 2025, and it just is going to continue to grow even further which is pretty much backed up by my survey data, with the people here saying that they believe that the impact of 3D printing in healthcare on society is going to be major. As you can see, they all rated that impact of 4 or 5 versus their personal lives. It hasn't had as much impact. It is still a pretty new technology for the healthcare industry. Um, we have one outlier here, and his mom actually had cancer. So she has benefited from these medications and stuff. So it's definitely important, and it's starting to make an impact in people's lives. Unfortunately, a lot of my survey results included young people in general. So this is the survey that you can fill out right here, and this is the survey that everybody took, which yielded these results. Just a brief synopsis of my survey here in the form of an infographic. You can see that 65% of people said that 3D printing, mostly positive impact on society. So it's definitely a big portion of people believe that. And everybody had at least a mostly positive impact. And then you can also see the data, which is reflected in this chart here, that 85% of people rated the impact on their personal lives a 1 or a 2. So, as we were talking about, other than computer science, the innovation has a massive impact in the healthcare industry with printing organs, medicines, prosthetics, and creating educational opportunities. Next, we have the technical aspects of 3D printing. It goes over really quick this picture here, how it works in very simplified terms so that's easy to see and easily laid out. The 3D printer interacts with the innovation by using a software system to make a 3D model. Once the software has a 3D model, which can be cleaned up by the AI, it breaks it down into different lines and pieces, and then the printer gets that information from the computer and it prints it row by row, and it creates a solid object as it uses algorithms and programming aids to speed up 3D printing and generating the 3D models. Like we talked about, the software is going to break down that model into thin pieces, so that uses algorithms to know where to break it down and be able to break it down. And then it can also use the AI to clean up the computer generated models and ensure that the printer is running smoothly. Last page here is going to be my reference page, and I just have the number of reference, the author, the title, and then the year, and then just a little blurb on what it was used for and why the source was used. So you can see here, this one's about 3D printing in medicine and the healthcare industry, and this page basically just goes over everything that we just talked about here. So this is just the page right here that goes over all the information that we were just talking about. I had a lot of fun this semester in this class, and I really enjoyed it, and I feel like I've learned a lot of really valuable lessons throughout the class.